The world was shaken when the news broke of a military invasion in Ukraine by its powerful neighbor, Russia. What were the motives behind this aggressive act? Was it a long-planned strategy or a spur-of-the-moment decision? How will this conflict escalate and what will be its consequences? Amid the Russian invasion, Ukraine has been receiving aid from its allies in the form of weapons, ammunition, and military equipment. As the situation continues to unfold, many questions remain unanswered, and the stakes have never been higher. Russia-Ukraine War. The war between Russia and Ukraine that began in February of 2014 with the covert invasion of the Ukrainian Autonomous Republic of Crimea by disguised Russian troops. The conflict expanded in April of 2014 when Russians and local proxy forces seized territory in Ukraine's Donbas region. Over the next 7 years, more than 14,000 people would be killed in fighting in eastern Ukraine. The Russian invasion of Ukraine. Between October and November of 2021, Russia began a massive buildup of troops and military equipment along its border with Ukraine. Over the following months, additional forces were dispatched to Belarus, the Russian-backed separatist enclave of Transnistria in Moldova, and Russian-occupied Crimea. By February of 2022, Western defense analysts estimated that as many as 190,000 Russian troops were encircling Ukraine and warned that a Russian incursion was imminent. Putin dismissed these accusations and claimed that an accompanying Russian naval buildup in the Black Sea was a previously scheduled exercise. While Western leaders consulted with both Zelensky and Putin in an effort to stave off a Russian invasion that appeared inevitable, Putin issued demands that included de facto veto power over NATO expansion and the containment of NATO forces to countries that had been members prior to 1997. This would, in fact, remove the NATO security umbrella from Eastern and Southern Europe as well as the Baltic states. Those proposals were flatly rejected. British and American intelligence services also took this unprecedented step of pre-bunking Russia's manufactured casus belli by revealing classified information about Russia's intentions. On February 21, 2022, Putin responded by recognizing the independence of the self-proclaimed People's Republics of Donetsk and Luhansk. Putin ordered Russian troops into Ukrainian territory as peacekeepers, and Russian military activity in the Donbas, ongoing since 2014 but consistently disavowed by the Kremlin. Western leaders, pledging solidarity with Ukraine, responded by levying a raft of sanctions against Russian fictional institutions. In the early hours of February 24, Zelensky, speaking in Russian, addressed the Russian people directly, delivering an impassioned plea for peace but vowing the Ukraine would defend itself. Later that day at about 6 a.m. Moscow time, Putin took to airwaves to announce the beginning of a special military operation. Within minutes, explosions were heard in major cities across Ukraine and air raid sirens began to sound in Kyiv. Around the world, leaders condemned the unprovoked attack and promised swift and severe sanctions against Russia. Zelensky declared martial law and called for a general mobilization of Ukraine's military-aged population. The Battle of Kyiv and initial Russian advance. It seems clear that Putin's plan had been to seize Kyiv in a matter of days and to install a pro-Moscow government. In the early hours of the invasion, an elite Russian paratrooper unit captured Hostomel Airport just 6 miles northwest of the Ukrainian capital in an airborne assault. Teams of mercenary assassins from the Kremlin-backed Wagner Group were dispatched to Kyiv with orders to eliminate key figures in the Ukrainian government. Despite the obvious personal danger, Zelensky remained in the capital, even going as far as to film himself standing on the street in central Kyiv. When the United States offered to evacuate him from the combat zone, Zelensky reportedly said, "The fight is here, I need ammunition, not a ride." Russian troops in Belarus crossed the Ukrainian border and occupied the Chernobyl nuclear plant as part of a general advance to Kyiv along the west bank of the Dnieper River. Russian forces in Crimea pushed north and captured Kherson on March 2nd. It would be the only regional capital taken by the Russians in the initial offensive. Elsewhere, the Russian advance stalled in the face of determined Ukraine defenses. An attempted Russian encirclement of Kharkiv failed, despite the city's close proximity to the Russian border, and the thrust toward Kyiv collapsed due to stiff Ukrainian resistance and obvious shortcomings in Russia's logistics capabilities. International support for Ukraine. On paper, the Russian military appeared to have an overwhelming advantage in both personnel and material, but the West quickly responded to provide Ukraine with billions of dollars in military aid. Zelensky, often appearing in an olive drab t-shirt, appeared to governments and intergovernmental organizations around the world through video calls as he was warned that a new Iron Curtain was descending on Europe. Ukraine's military performance was now solely dependent on foreign assistance. However, many of those defending Ukraine had earned valuable combat experience while serving in the Donbass, where fighting against Russian proxies was ongoing since 2014. In addition, Ukraine's military underwent extensive reforms in the years since Russia illegally annexed Crimea, and defense spending increased sharply during that time. When he took office, Zelensky had ordered an overhaul of Ukroboronprom, the scandal-plagued state-owned concern that controlled Ukraine's defense industry, and that restructuring led to renewed confidence in Ukroboronprom and ultimately resulted in strategic partnerships with internal firms such as Lockheed Martin. The rapid advances made by Ukraine's military-industrial complex were perhaps most dramatically displayed on April 13th, when the Moskva, a Russian-guided missile cruiser and a flagship of the Black Sea Fleet, was struck by a pair of Ukrainian-produced Neptune anti-ship missiles off the coast of Odessa. Russian authorities claimed that the ship had suffered an ammunition fire, but that it was being towed to port for repairs. When the Moskva sank the following day, it provided an enormous morale boost for Ukraine and further undermined the perception of Russia as a near-peer adversary of the United States. The loss of Moskva also degraded Russia's ability to project force in the western Black Sea, as it was the only vessel in the Black Sea Fleet with long-range anti-air defenses. U.S. planning to send Patriot air defense missiles. Ukraine has been requesting further air defense support for some time, as Russian attacks have continued to kill civilians and cause major blackouts. Patriot is one of the most advanced U.S. air defense systems, but supplies to Ukraine are likely to be limited. It is not known how many of the batteries will be sent to Ukraine. Once the move is approved, the systems are likely to be sent over in the coming days, with Ukrainian soldiers trained to use them at the U.S. Army base in Grafenwehr, Germany, the official said. The significant decision recognizes that the greatest immediate threat is currently from the air, not the ground. Russia has been regularly targeting Ukraine's critical infrastructure with missiles and drones, leaving millions without power, electricity, and running water in the middle of winter. In recent months, Ukraine has been supplied with advanced air defenses from the West, including NASAMS and IRIS-T systems, but still needs more. It needs air defenses not just to intercept missiles fired at power supply and distribution centers in and around its cities, but also to prevent Russia from gaining air superiority near the front line. Ukraine is struggling to do both. Justin Bronk, a senior fellow at the defense think tank RUSI, believes that the U.S. decision to supply Patriot batteries is linked to Western concerns that Iran may supply Russia with longer-range ballistic missiles. The supply of Patriot batteries to Ukraine will probably be limited. The system is in high demand right across the world. It is expensive and it requires significant training to operate. All reasons why this decision has not been fast, and Ukraine's initial pleas for Patriot were ignored. But the threat of Iran supplying Russia with long-range ballistic missiles have changed the equation. The ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia has been a major source of tension in the international community for many years. The recent invasion by Russia and the subsequent response from Ukraine and its allies have raised the stakes even higher. The battle for Ukraine is ongoing and the future remains uncertain. However, Ukraine's military has received a boost in the form of weapons and military equipment from its allies, which has given it the necessary resources to defend itself against Russian aggression. As the situation continues to unfold, it is crucial for the international community to remain vigilant and take the necessary steps to support Ukraine and promote peace in the region. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it informative and engaging. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to our channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a new upload.